Hey everyone, welcome to Truth, Lies, and Shenanigans. My name is Neo. We have Jam.
All right.
28
What is
Stanley Cup champions. Whoop, whoop.
what is your favorite movie ever? Ever.
Jaws.
Forever?
No hesitation.
Jaws.
Wow. All right.
What,
Not
say
Sharknado.
again?
Sharknado. Um,
No.
describe yourself as a teenager in 3 words.
Describe myself as a teenager in 3 words.
Yes.
And remember, we all knew you back then, Ruben.
Yeah,
so.
with hair doesn't count because I just took
For
that.
real.
Let's see. Artistic. Nerdy goody two shoes.
All right. Goody two shoes. You got to choose one of those. All right. Goody or two shoes? Which was it? Which did you have? All right. The next question. What's in your handbag right now?
Really?
First of all, what type of handbag?
What's in my
is it?
hand right now? They're empty right
What
now.
type of handbag? Did you get it from
What type
Gucci
of
last
handbag
night?
is it? Is it Gucci? Is it Prada? Chanel?
Right.
Fake Michael Kors from the street on the block? What kind of handbag is it?
And if it's Gucci, were you the guy who busted out the window last night in D.C.?
Shh, don't tell anybody.
You're not answering the question, sir. All right.
I think it was him.
What is
It's a fanny pack.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have a Gucci fanny pack.
Okay. What is your biggest pet peeve, Groovin?
Hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy.
All right.
SAT words. I thought you were going to say hypocrisy. Oh, no, not the
All
dancing.
right.
All right, we're good.
All right, cool. So we know a little bit more about our friend Groovin. All right.
No group.
Now, of course, we need to get to know you guys a little bit better too. So I do have a question for you. Name a song that you can listen to all day. I'll start with Jan.
I've known the garden res.
Okay. Liz. E.
Just one. Go to Ruben. Come back to me.
Groovin.
Way to deflect. How about 9 Inch Nails Pretty Hate Machine?
Okay. Back to the Z.
You need the song specifically?
No, you're good.
Are you? I mean, no.
I would say anything from Mariah Carey.
Anything? Okay. I'm going with Purple Rain.
Oh.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
You're not including Mariah's album she released about, was it 2-3 years ago? She was a little out of tune. Might not have hit any of the notes she was trying for. You're not talking about that?
Yep. I'm down. I'm down.
I was just
Ride or
checking.
die.
Just checking. Because I could have sung that.
Mariah go back like babies and pacifiers, honey.
I could have sung that for less. That's what I'm getting at.
All right. Let's jump into some shout outs real quick.
Oh, got a shout out to Kevin and Jeanette. What's up, y'all? How you doing?
What's up, Jeanette?
All right, I got a shout out to Alice Hung and Steve Anders. They posted a bunch of stuff on our page and on my page that kind of guided my questions for today. So, got some questions from them. All right, anybody else? Groovin? Anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, I got one.
Who you got?
This one's to all friends and family and the students who are undergraduating or graduating or academy-ating, plus or minus a few weeks. But they're all feeling a little underappreciated and undercelebrated right now for their accomplishments. So shout out to all of them.
Yeah, shout out to my niece as well, who just graduated, Bernadette. She'll actually be on the show next week. So she's having a graduation party she couldn't watch today.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
All right. So let's move on to jam sessions.
All right.
All right, so how this works. Each host comes with some hot topics they want to discuss. One of them will start us off, and like a jazz jam session, right? And then we'll move on to the next host, and then we'll talk about whatever they want to talk about. All right. So, let me.
Whoa!
What are we talking about first? Start us off, buddy.
Oh, we're talking about Pennsylvania, my 10th favorite state. And the angry Democrats there. Play it for me, please.
Play it? I got you.
Quarantining himself
Turn
for
that beat back.
weeks. Of course, he didn't explain that to any of us when he was in
We
committee.
can't hear him.
For all of these
You can't hear him?
drugged up
I got you.
girls to pretend that
So,
it is safe to go back.
if y'all aren't familiar
As
with
a wife
this,
who is
the
immunocompromised.
Democrats found
Let me
out
tell you why
some
it matters to
interesting
me.
news in their local.
You talk with other people
elected
while
Congress.
you were testing positive, while you were quarantining the people around you, while you were doing contact tracing, and not notifying a single Democratic member who has to show up here and go see their kids that are having to call their husbands, having to call their wives, and saying, honey, I might have exposed you and everybody I love in this world because one of my colleagues tested positive, but he was protecting his family, but not protecting mine, and Republican leadership protected him.
Yeah.
So,
Tell us about
Yeah.
that, son. Tell us.
so Brian Sims found out. He was the man who you just heard speaking. He found out that one of his GOP colleagues had tested positive for COVID and had shared it with GOP leadership. But GOP leadership had decided not to share it with Democratic leadership. So although GOP leadership went through the whole contact tracing thing, they waited about a week until they even was an inkling of something had happened. And so these guys spend a lot of time in close quarters, and the GOP had been, as they tend to be in most states, arguing against keeping things closed, wanting everything to be open. So what this meant was all these Democrats and all their staff suddenly found out they had the COVID or were in danger for having the COVID and had been exposed a few days ago. So I just wanted to throw this out to the group. What would you do? We're all sitting at home, so it's hard to say. What would you do, Lizzie, if your cat walked in from outside, brushing some fur off?
First of all, Remy is an indoor cat. He would never be outside with all of the germs and the common folks. But I think this is just another example of, in the words of George W. Bush, evil doers. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you be forthcoming? Do you really want to expose? Are you that partisan that you want to expose the people on the other side and the other party to potential death and destruction? Like, they never cease to amaze me. Every single day is something new with the GOP.
What do you think, Reuven?
Well, I'm kind of waiting to see what happens if someone gets sick or dies because of this, because there's already a precedent that establishes this sort of thing as a felony,
Really?
because that's what happened with AIDS and non-disclosure of that.
That's a good point. Now, I heard that the guy who had the COVID, apparently he was in the state house and then tested positive, but never returned to the state house. I don't know how true that was. But the problem was they just never disclosed after he tested positive.
He tested, and there were about 4 days where he still came in.
Yeah.
And then he completely started to self-isolate. And it's
Okay.
those 4 days that ain't dropped that knowledge on anybody.
Okay.
That's the issue. Because all it takes is one cough, bump, bad fart. I don't know.
But it also, it's not just that guy. It speaks to the GOP as a whole if they collectively decided that they were going to keep this from the Dems.
Right.
That's premeditated.
Right, we're going to protect our family, but not yours.
Right.
All right.
So I guess
right.
that's it.
Time to move on. Lizzie, what you got?
So I guess let's start off by talking about our girl, our education secretary, Miss Betsy DeVos.
Oh, she's looking pretty today.
Is going to ensure that all public schools send the money they get from the CARE Act, make sure that the public schools share it with the private schools in our country. And I think the DMV, the Washington, D.C. area, we can kind of relate to the outrage with this. We saw this a couple of weeks ago with the private school in Upper Northwest, Sidwell Friends. Now, Sidwell Friends has a $52 million endowment. Sidwell Friends is a private school that Chelsea Clinton attended, that Sasha and Malia Obama attended.
Mhm.
They have all of this money in their endowment, and yet they applied for and received a small business loan for $5 million. And they said that they're not giving it back. They would rather use that money instead of, putting into their endowment funds. So this is once again an example of the rich maintaining the rich, robbing
Mhm.
from the poor and giving to the rich. The care fund was supposed to be something that was dispersed to, at least the education portion of it was supposed to be something that was dispersed to institutions and to students during the pandemic, to help them out with any costs that they may have incurred over the past 2-3 months. It wasn't supposed to go to these rich elite schools that already have a means of taking care of their teachers, taking care of their building costs. So my question to you guys is, do you think it's fair? Should public schools bear the brunt of whatever, I would say, debt that private schools encounter during the pandemic?
I think, but this is just me personally, that there's a lot of pollen and leaves that get in the way of people commuting past these schools. And if they don't take the money from public schools to clean this up, who will?
What do you think, Griffin?
Why don't you want rich people to be educated?
I mean, are they really being educated? Look at Donald Trump. He grew up rich and he's a dumb MF, a dumb mofo. So
You're anti-education. That's the problem.
I mean, I feel like it defeats the purpose of public versus private schools. I mean, private schools, I mean, you could provide some funds for private schools, but primarily you should be focused on public schools because that's what a government does.
Right. Private schools are supposed to be privately funded.
Yep.
Right. By
And
definition.
you have to consider that a good majority of public schools, at least in big cities and in urban areas, are a part of low income neighborhoods. A lot of these schools are already failing.
Mhm.
And so the idea of taking away from those schools that need it most and sending that over to the big rich school up on the hill where tuition is $50,000 a year is absolutely insane. And according to the New York Times, Betsy DeVos had proposed this issue several times before and was denied. But now it seems as if she has the backing of Donald Trump, so it might come to fruition.
All
I
right.
mean,
Good.
you have to look at DeVos's overall attitude toward public education, which is just like you said there at the end. She is very much about. There's a case where, or the student she helped personally, which is, this goes back to sort of her origin story. There's a young lady who's in public school, and she found the best way to help her was to pull her out of the public school and put her in private school, because she didn't know how to handle public school. It's just too much for her to process, which is not really a solution for private schools. I mean, for public schools, but that's DeVos's style. But
All right. I just want to point out some comments from our audience. So, Jeanette Brown says she is so detestable, in my opinion. And she says there was a good Washingtonian piece that broke it down, private schools by private school, a while back. If you can share that, Jeanette, that'd be great.
yeah, it would be.
And she says education in the wrong hands is a waste. All right. All right. I guess we'll go with me. All right. So, did you guys? I'm gonna talk riots. I'm gonna just jump right in. I'm gonna talk the riots. I see Lizzie's face. She's not excited about that.
I gotta get ready.
Put your hoodie up. Put your hoodie up.
So I'm going this way. So, have you seen all the videos and images coming out of Minnesota and locally and other places. The governor of Minnesota was saying that white supremacists and drug cartels are adding to the Floyd chaos. Yeah, well, actually, I'm just going to show you some videos. Let me just show you guys some videos real quick because, let's see. We have this here. Who are these protesters smashing things? This was actually in Washington, D.C. Drug cartels are adding to the. Can someone turn off their volume? Yeah. These people dressed in black. And you see who's trying to stop it, right? Yeah. And one more. I got one more video. All right. I just want to share this one video, and then I'll jump to you guys. So let's put this up.
This right here?
Yeah, they put them there.
This the setup.
They put them there on purpose,
Y'all know where we at.
They gonna set them on.
In case you don't know what that is,
Y'all know what building this is right here.
those
I
are
ain't even gonna
bricks,
say
a
what name it
pallet
is.
Hey,
of
where do
bricks.
them bricks go to? Where do them
This
bricks
is
go
setup.
to? Where do them bricks
We gotta
go
do
to?
better.
Ain't no damn construction.
Gotta do better.
Ain't no damn construction around here.
I see.
Ain't no damn construction around here. You just gonna set a pallet of bricks right there. Oh, okay.
Listen, I did jury duty 3 months ago. Y'all don't keep no bricks right there. Do better.
So
I'm
guys,
confused. What were the bricks? I didn't.
This right here?
Yeah.
so if you look
This
there,
the setup.
So
it's a pallet
They're
of
on
bricks
purpose,
Y'all know where we
bro.
that
at.
was set in the middle of the street next to the courthouse.
Y'all know what building this
So my question to you is, who's really causing these riots? Are these anarchists going out there causing these riots, or are these riots really being caused by black people who are upset about George Floyd? I'm going to start with Liz because she was making faces.
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, just from the pictures that I saw, everybody that was at Gucci yesterday in Washington, D.C., kind of had the same hue as me. But overall, I do think that the media, I think the president, a lot of people in government have automatically assumed that the people who are causing all of this destruction, that the people who are starting all of this, the people that are out there looting, are black people, are brown people, persons of color. This is why the president specifically used the term thugs when he talked about shooting looters. He wasn't talking about white folks. He said nothing, never once used the term thugs when he was talking about or referring to the armed militia that showed up at the Michigan State Capitol.
No, what did he call them?
He called
Very
them
good people.
good people.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think what we see is happening is, once again, there's a division along race lines, along color lines, that puts one side over here as unruly, violent thugs, usually the persons of color, and then the other people over here who are non-persons of color, and we just give them a pass on certain things. Like Antonio just said, I've seen several videos that were kind of shocking to me of armed white people, armed with either guns or boulders, rocks, destroying property, and no one is highlighting that.
Yeah.
It's always on us.
If it wasn't for all the videos coming out on social media, we wouldn't be seeing that. Everybody would be assuming that it was black people doing this totally. So, Groover, what do you think? What is your take on this?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. You have some protesters who feel the need to express their anger through breaking things. You have anarchists and opportunists who see this potential of causing havoc and robbing and doing whatever they want to do. If the police force is otherwise occupied, then it's open season. I was watching the video and I'm thinking, hey, yeah, there's a pallet of bricks. Where did those come from? Hey, why does this guy have such bad form trying to kick a window out at a Five Guys? I mean, there's the professional idea of how to cause trouble, and there's the people who are just saying, "Hey, I'm mad, and I'm going to take it out on this window."
All right, Jam.
There's definitely a little from column A and a little from column B.
It's. I mean, I think we covered the basics of it. You can say it's everybody, it's folks in the community. It's not. Who's doing it? Anyone who has a chance.
Yeah.
Like the first thing I noticed with a lot of these folks dressed in black is the last riot that we got to see. They had a bunch of folks dressed in black, sort of hopping off stuff, burning things, and it does first place my mind flash. I was like, we just saw a bunch of people sort of hopping around in black, breaking things. They weren't all of color. I think it's becoming part of the PR game. Like it's the opportunity to show what you want to show.
Sorry.
Nope. Short version. So who is it? Everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just more concerned that these groups, these white supremacist groups, are setting us up. Just like that video with the pallets. And a bigger problem with that is that we're falling into the setup. You know, I like that the guy who was saying, you know, pay attention, stop, you know, this is a setup. I mean, I just think we need to pay attention to that and be aware. All right. Sorry that I went over time. Ruben, all right. Your first one. Come on. First jam session.
All right. So, in D.C., the mayor has decided that based on, here you can watch the video for it.
Safer by reducing speed. One thing that we have for sure learned with less traffic on the street.
So speed limit is being reduced as a default to 20 miles an hour. They say it's because of the pedestrian use of streets and fewer cars on the road, which leads for a greater opportunity to speed. She also said this is going to be a permanent change.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
So, you know, I'm wondering what your views of a new speed limit in DC are.
That is some BS. 20 miles per hour, that is like ridiculous. I mean, I could understand areas being 20 miles per hour, but the entire Washington, D.C.? Yeah, no.
Well, the main thoroughfares, like Pennsylvania Avenue, are still going to have their own speed limits. We're talking about the default speed limit for the unmarked streets.
I mean, I have to, like...
Was it 25 is the current speed limit?
So, I mean, there's some streets where people still roll through stop signs and all that nonsense. 20, 25, it's all relative. People just don't want to stop. But that is trash. DC makes that money off of the camera speaking.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. This is just however much more they can to catch those, to empty my pockets. My $5.
Shit, try 100. DC has like the highest fines in the country.
Yes. Yes.
Well, in addition to that, I mean, you know, there are still people who don't necessarily buy into Uber and Lyft. They're still taking cabs. And if you're in a car in a meter, that just adds to your fare. Like you're in a car that's now going, you know, 20 miles per hour. You're sitting there, you're just putting down the street. The meter goes up.
All right, Jam.
All right, back to the... I'm going to run us back, all in black, to the...
you ready for the video?
To the right.
All right. This is another one.
Right. But it's the conversation I want you guys to know here.
While we're watching, I just want to point out, in all these videos, look who's trying to stop people from doing this.
I just came with a hammer and smashed the window.
Now, let's see up everybody.
You wanna go? Yes, what's up? Somebody hold my blunt. Hey, somebody hold my blunt. Hey. Are you a fucking cop?
For stopping that man from breaking windows. But he gets more dapped for when the guy told him, I'm going to have to fight you, or whatever he said. He's like, hold on, hold my blunt. Came back onto the screen. It was like, okay, let's do this. Let's keep talking. Hold my blunt, man. Gets a vote for being awesome. He won the internet for the day.
That is now the male version of, you know, prepping for a fight. Whereas normally young ladies would like, let me take off my phone. Now it's turned into hump.
Hold my blunt. Uh-oh. Hold my blunt.
So,
Should you notice that we still have not identified who that despicable
Right.
vigilante is in
Yeah.
that video?
There was word
I
that he
would-
was a cop, but it hasn't been confirmed.
It
Right,
hasn't been
they're-
confirmed yet, but regardless, it's mighty suspect. You have this lone white. He's not even with another mob or group.
Right.
It's this lone white male who is causing all this destruction by himself. That takes a lot of gumption, a lot of privilege. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was a cop.
I'm going to be honest. I really do think these are intentional things that people are going out. I think they have a plan, and they have people going out specifically to go to areas and cause the anarchy. And I was seeing another video where people were looting, and the people who were inside were not people of color. I mean, there were people of color there, but it was everyone. And the whole idea is it was, there was word they were trying to start a race war, and that was the whole purpose of all of it.
I mean, to me, it does have a very Breitbart feel to it, like an undercurrent of game going on. But to hold this, to leave the blunt alone, unless you got something to add to the blunt grooving. Any blunt grooving? So I would like to shout out Jeanette and Kevin talking about speed limits in Germany. Speed limit 35 kph, 21.7 miles per hour. He's right. I remember cruising around Germany with those tricky cameras. You gotta,
But their streets are like 2 feet apart.
In Finland, I used to live in Finland. I think most of you guys know that. But in Finland, if you get any type of traffic ticket, it's 10% of your income.
Whoa.
10% of your overall income. That's what happens in socialist societies. And so let's just say most people are not speeding on the road.
I might have to be against socialism now. Shoot.
Whoa!
10% of your income.
All right, Big G, what's the next one?
Are we back to Liz E?
We're back to Liz E.
So I'm not sure if the audience got a chance to see this story because we've all been focused on either the pandemic or the aftermath of George Floyd's murder. But there was a story that appeared on People magazine, that's where I first started, in reference to a young groom-to-be and his bride. So there was a couple that was supposed to get married on May 23rd of this year. Unfortunately, the bride-to-be died in a horrible accident 3 months prior to their scheduled wedding date. And so after the funeral, after the groom-to-be had time to decompress, he started to call all of the vendors and see if he could work something out with them and alert them to the fact that there was no longer going to be a wedding because his fiance had passed away. Every vendor except one decided to give him a refund. The vendor that declined the refund was a company called Copper Stallion Media. And so what they did was, in addition to saying that he signed a contract that said no refunds, they decided, because there was a lot of back and forth between this company and the groom-to-be, and they got pissed at him because he was steadfastly saying, I don't think I should have to, I don't think you should be allowed to keep the $1,800 for the video that you were supposed to shoot at my wedding that never took place through no fault of my own. My fiance died. In return, the media company went online, so they created 2 websites in this guy's name. And in those websites, they taunted him, they mocked him, they dogged him. In one, they were like, sorry, not sorry about your fiance dying. And then in the other, it was, and this is a quote, so I should not be fined for this. It happened, Justin.
I don't know.
Sorry that your fiance died. And in another, they said, quote, we hope you sob and cry all day what would have been your wedding day. That's how they responded to this.
Wow.
So my initial response was, what happened to decency and humanity and compassion in this country? Like, I can't imagine anyone, I never would have thought anyone would have responded to that for an incident which is so sad and something that pulls at your heartstrings. So my first question to you, gentlemen, is if you are the CEO, the owner of this company, would you have given this young man a refund back?
If I'm the owner of the company, yeah. Or I would have found some way to work out some sort of refund, canceling whatever costs I've already incurred, or something like that. There's got to be something reasonable that can happen without me making fun of him for his fiance dying.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, those are two. Sorry, you got.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. There's no question I would have given a refund. I'd at least given a refund just for the customer service, especially when it became, um, you know, a bigger issue. I might have initially been like, maybe no. I might have declined, but at some point, as the CEO of my business, I would have caved.
Jam?
I mean, I would have looked at the contract. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward contract, but I mean, there's no reason for him to be nasty.
Right.
Like that's just out of control. And that's the problem with it. Like if someone passed, like all the extra stuff, you just assume, even if they're not treating you well, it ain't got nothing to do with you. They're dealing with some heavy stuff that had nothing to do with the $10 they ended up spending on your photography place anyway. Like that's insane behavior.
Vaughn
But
Perry was
outside-
saying the media company was trash. Jeanette Brown has said, "What is wrong with people?" Now,
Well, the fact that he took the time to create 2 websites in the groom to be's name to trash him is just appalling. So it turns out now that this guy is a scammer. He's a grifter, and he has created a lot of countries under false names. He has been scamming people for like the past 3-4 years, in which he has shot videos for a person's wedding, but then has not given them the video, asking them for more money. Or he has said that, you never paid me to begin with, so you're not going to pay. You're not going to get your product until you give me an additional funds. And so now he's under investigation in the state of Nevada. And there are several people that have come out and been like, don't go with this guy. He's awful. It's not just this one incident, but there are several incidents that he's been involved in like this.
okay.
I just have a feeling that at some point he's going to cross the wrong person.
All right.
Especially on the street. People
That's a husband and wife disappearance right there. They gotta take him together. They be like, oh, okay, we got.
All right. Looks like we got time for 2 more. All right. So, Kelly Chauvin, I think that's how you say his name, the wife of the murderer of George Floyd, filed for divorce. So, this is a real quick question. Did she do this for because she is upset with the dude, or maybe she was being abused, or was this monetary? She's just doing that to keep her money because she knows he's going to jail.
Cream, cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money.
Cream.
Dollar bill,
Dollar bill, y'all.
So wait, so both of you guys, okay? Go ahead.
Oh wait. I want to express my opinion first.
Go ahead.
She married him. She's been married all these years to him. Why is it now? Cash rules everything around me. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He had 18 potential cases before this.
Right.
It was not like she found out who her husband was, who her husband is. But now, if she files for divorce, any civil suits, she will not be responsible for it. So, yeah, she's protecting her assets 100%.
Proven? You agree?
But all the other times were fine. Now there's video that says what he does. So now she has to get away from him because there's no hiding.
I agree with that.
She's in fear for her life now. Good call,
I think there's a possibility that she herself had been abused. I mean, anyone who would do that to someone like George Floyd, and you said he had 18 incidents prior. I mean, he clearly has a history of, this type of violence. So it wouldn't be unusual that maybe she had been abused for the years that she was with him, and saw an opportunity to get out. It's possible.
I would just like to bring up the point that there.
Go ahead, Groovin.
Go ahead, Liz.
I was just saying that it's possible that they are of like minds, that they're both, awful people together.
That's true too.
And
I've seen that.
So Jeanette did
So
bring
I
up
would
a-
just like to bring up the point that contrary to what had been spread around on the internet for a while, at the moment there is reports that there is no relation between her and the other officers involved.
Oh yeah, because apparently there was word that that Kelly Chauvin might be Tao's sister, and she's not.
What?
Right. Just because they're both Asian, they have to be related.
Right, of course. That was initially.
we all look alike. We all know one another. You know how that goes.
Oh, I thought she was one of the rich Asian. I thought she had was in that movie. Was in that movie?
All right, grouping, close us out. Close jam sessions out so we can get to jams.
All right. Closing everything out. We've had a bunch of negative things. Let's do one positive thing today.
All right.
For the first time since 2011, NASA was involved in sending a rocket into space from the U.S.
All right, let's watch it.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA. Go SpaceX. Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
America has launched. So rises a new era of American spaceflight, and with it the ambitions of a new generation continuing
Yes.
to dream. 20 seconds
Finally.
into flight, stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Just sad I couldn't see it. Got my
So
NASA
it
gear
was
on,
in
my
partnership
NASA
with
gear.
SpaceX. And they found a way to land and reuse the first stage onto a drone ship in the middle of the ocean.
That was pretty amazing.
The technology behind a lot of this is incredible. Did you guys happen to see what the cockpits look like?
Yeah.
They did a comparison of the three cockpits between the old Apollo ones, the space shuttle, and now. The advances are incredible. So anyway, I just wanted to bring up something that there was some positive news going on also.
Good.
I personally loved it. I watched it yesterday. I'm a big crier. For those who don't know, I cry at everything. I'm a big crier because it harkened back to my days, when I was 10, 12 years old, and when NASA and the space program was a huge deal in the United States. I did 2 of my science projects on, space shuttles, Space Shuttle Challenger, Space Shuttle Explorer. I remember being in class in 6th grade and watching the Explorer blow up. So this was a huge deal for me yesterday. I was very proud. I was very concerned watching the launch, like sitting on the edge of my seat, like, okay, come on, guys, be safe, be safe. So it was just, for me, just a good distraction from all of the other chaos that we've been dealing with over the past week. And as one of the former astronauts that was also watching it, I watched it on ABC. She made a point that, the ability to leave the planet is really a big deal.
It is.
And I buy into that. Like, that is amazing. I'm a big fan of the Twilight Zone. And a lot of the old episodes of the Twilight Zone dealt with space exploration. And so this was just, I loved it yesterday. And that doesn't mean that, I took my mind off of all of the other things permanently, but it was just a good breath of fresh air. And so today, the 2
Space Force
actually docked into the space station successfully. So that was great. So I loved everything about it. Loved it.
Cool.
Kevin Daxton just yelled Space Force.
That's right. Yeah, I'm with you.
Well, I mean, that brings up the issue of, since it's privatized now with working with SpaceX, you got to worry about things like the Wayland Corp from Alien.
Wayland Crest, true, actually.
Making sure there's enough atmosphere for people of color on Mars now. Come on.
We gonna have our own planet.
What are we gonna do about Arnie?
All right. So that's all the jam sessions, guys. Good job. All right, we're just going to move right into the next topic, which is Jam and his segment. National service should be mandatory. Uncle Sam wants your kids.
Yes, and your soul, but that's a different discussion. All right. So, y'all, national service, should it be mandatory? I want to ask each of you guys that first, before we even really get into this. Neo,
Oh, no.
what do you think?
No.
No.
No way in hell.
No. Why not?
Oh, you want to go into detail? I got a whole list of. Say what?
Why not? Give me one good one. Why not? Why not?
One good sentence. Because my kids aren't going.
Okay.
It's unnecessary. That's the number one. That's one good sentence. It's absolutely unnecessary.
That was like two, but I'm gonna let you slide.
I'm switching it to absolutely unnecessary.
Liz E. So, should it or should it not be? Should national service be a mandatory thing?
And I say this coming from a military family. Hell no.
Thank you.
It's a potential violation of the 13th Amendment. Involuntary servitude. No.
All right. What you got, Groovin?
I have a question for you to clarify.
Yes.
Is your definition of national service military only?
My definition of national service is national service. Answer my question.
All right. I think it's a potentially good idea, but there's no way to implement it in a way that makes sense.
Okay.
A potentially good idea. Okay, that's a start.
All right. So I'm gonna give you guys just drop a little bit of history before we move forward with this question. So just a smidge. So national service, as most of us look at it, does tend to slant talking, as you guys know, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force.
Space Force.
All of these have been not only vehicles of national service to help the country fight wars, but have also been vehicles for people of color and other people, disenfranchised people, to sort of join the ranks of the middle class and try to make more of their lives. There's some value to that, and that's still one of the reasons it's used today. Now, I would like you to consider, though, that you should broaden your idea of what national service is. Groovin's onto it with this one. National service it can be military, but as we've seen with FEMA and some of these other actions that the military or the National Guard has been asked to take, that they branch out into different types of service to the country. When there are emergencies, these folks are called in, or when there's danger, real or not, these folks are called in to help out. And again, we encounter people who are doing things other than just pointing a gun at someone, but they're finding ways to help out the country. So, and this does tend to include a lot more groups like Peace Corps. Kevin just threw Peace Corps out there. I'm going to put an asterisk beside Peace Corps because technically Peace Corps isn't a domestic national service, but there are ones like Peace Corps, like AmeriCorps, Senior Corps. Those groups are. And their purpose is to go out and help around the country and have different services. And so I ask you guys again, once we broaden this discussion a little bit, is it something that would benefit the country to have a national service where, as part of your growing up process, after or during high school, you spend some time working with your community trying to make it a better place?
Who are you starting with? Wait, who are you starting with?
I'm starting with, let's see, who has the friendliest face? Groovin.
That's good. That's smart. Smart dude.
Sorry, I'll work on my scowl. So the problem is you start taking issue of, for example, religion. So if you're working for Planned Parenthood, does that count? You start working for the AmeriCorps. Who decides that you get to go there as opposed to serving in the military? You have conscientious objectors. You have all these issues where you start dealing with who's in charge and what tasks are assigned. without the same type of control that you would want. And then you start working into the same thing that happened with draft dodging.
Okay. So
it's an easy step from one to the other.
Okay.
Or you have the same thing where you have the wealthy and the elites in this country manipulating their position, and where they are unfavorably favored into where they can go, what type of service they have to do, or whether they can, like Reuven just said, whether they can dodge it completely versus, mofos in the inner city who really don't have the same type of resources to say, hey, I would prefer to do this versus that.
So who ends up going into national service is the poor.
Yeah.
And
now,
of course the disenfranchised, which would be Black people.
Then there's that.
And Latinos and people of color.
I'm into this. But Antonio brought up what was going to be my next point, is that if you are a part of a group in this country that is disenfranchised, who feel as if the government is not working on your behalf in your favor, why would I want to either voluntarily or have it be mandatory to serve in any type of service for this place?
Well,
what would be the incentive for me?
I guess part of the question for me as a representative of U.S., Mr. Sam himself, is if you feel that way, why are you in my country? Like, if you don't like the way
really,
and you don't want to affect it,
I'm a taxpayer, so I'm already giving you money, Sam. You already in my pockets.
Fair enough.
I'm a taxpayer. I'm a citizen who does not, use drugs, who does not do anything illegally. I've never been arrested. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I think that should be enough. I don't think it should be mandatory.
As a civic process to show that you are interacting with the world. I mean, I hear even online, there are a lot of people saying, rich will find a way to skip it. I hear you guys, but there's a certain, as we leave high school, as we go into college, if you consider that there's a certain range of time where you could actively serve militarily or otherwise, and people do choose their own careers and their own points of study, a push could be made, or a system could be partially created that says, if you are interested in this, this is where your service will lie, no matter where it is. Like AmeriCorps, for example, is very much going in communities working on illiteracy in places where they need it as much or more than the inner city. So I think, is that not something you consider? Is that not a benefit that would help our country? Is that not is that not a bit of what we're looking at when we look at these riots and people are talking about a lack of opportunity for justice and fairness? Like, this is where, like, civic involvement is a lot of where this stuff points. It's not all military, and there is power in being military. What is it to say that you don't want to be a part of these institutions that are the backbone of what can make our country great?
So the biggest problem with your argument, excuse me, Liz. So the biggest problem with your argument right now, have in place right now, as an example, because what ends up happening is when you start making something like this mandatory, that means that you have a force of people available to you for whatever means you need, which means, hey, you could have half the people doing Peace Corps or AmeriCorps or whatever, but as soon as they decide they want to go to war with somebody, they have a force that they can turn over. I mean, it's almost like a setup. So once you start making it mandatory, then that means that in that leader's mind, they have people that they can use for whatever means they need. It's not going to be, oh, my child gets to decide to go to AmeriCorps and work somewhere, or my child gets to go to military if they want to. No, it's going to be whatever that leader decides they want that person to do, or those people to do.
I mean,
I have a problem with, because, and here's my little bit of conservative republicanism coming out. I want less government, not more government. I don't want the government dictating and telling me what I have to do to prove that I am a good citizen, that I'm a good American, that I am contributing to society. But in addition to that, if you just talk about the military, not AmeriCorps, not Peace Corps, but if you just talk about the 5 branches of the military, they don't want people in the short term. So how long are we talking here? It does not do them any good to have someone come as a part of this program and be there for a year. The training takes a year alone, and then once they're trained, they're done. They have not done any service to the military whatsoever.
I guess I have several points to address in this. The first one, I'm with Kevin on it. My oath is to the Constitution, not the president.
Can I address that? Can I take a second to address that particular comment since you put it out there?
Well, let me throw one more out there so you can address that one too. I don't know if Liz had to because she's a lady, but the rest of us, when we turned 18, we are still on a list that said we could be drafted when we got out of high school.
Which is BS in itself, which I disagree with. So,
we were on that. We hit that list. Like at 18, did you not? I don't want to blow you up.
But since it's unrelated, can we go back to the Constitution comment?
I mean, I want to address both.
Okay, but they're unrelated, so I can let me do one at a time. We can come back to it. So my oath is to the Constitution, not the president. The reality of the situation is the president decides. So if the president says, hey, you're going to have a war with Iraq, you're going to find yourself in Iraq. If the president decides that you're going to have a war with Yemen, then you're in Yemen the next day. So it's not as simple as the Constitution.
Who do you think he's sending? The people that he thinks are thugs, or the very good people on the other side?
And our president doesn't give a damn about the Constitution. Let's be real.
He doesn't even. I bet you if you asked him tomorrow, what are the tenets of the 13th Amendment, he could not tell you. He doesn't know the Constitution.
I would like you guys to ease up on orange and have a broader view of what presidents look like in this country for a second.
Okay. I can ease up on orange. I can go to other places that have forced conscription.
And so, I mean, I have a list of places myself that has forced conscription.
Let's do it.
But my point is that we live in a country.
Finland, all 18-year-old males have to serve, I believe it's between 6 months to a year in the military in Finland. Now, we all know Finland ain't going to war with nobody. Like, they're not fighting with the Swedes anymore. They're not fighting with the Russians anymore. They're pretty neutral at this point. But they do have to serve some military service. But in my opinion, it's all for naught. Like, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time.
Why is it a waste of time? Why is it not something that allows you to see allows you to get a broader understanding of the workings of government, that allows you to be more proactive in your communities or other communities across this country? Why is it not that as well?
Because in Finland, and again, I think you made the designation that you're not just talking about military, but in Finland, it's just military service. It's not national service. It's just military service. So you have these young men that go and they serve, again, I think it's 6 to 12 months. They go and they serve. The majority of them come out. They do not continue with a career in the military. They do not continue with the career in civil service. They just go on about their business. They go to university. They go to school. They open up a business. It really doesn't have that much of an effect or bearing on their life. It certainly doesn't make them more apt to be compassionate in their communities and in their neighborhoods. In fact, a lot of the guys that go, they see it as party time. Like, it's not anything that is making them better Finns, making them better citizens. So Finns have, like, in high school, there are 3 years in high school. Your second year is when you kind of have your prom, if you will. So my prom date was a soldier. And he was about the dumbest mofo. I was just like, oh my God, you're in the military? Okay, this is a real special one. But it's. I just don't think it should be mandatory. Do I think that they should probably national service, whether it's military or AmeriCorps or Peace Corps or Job Corps, do I think that they should promote themselves?
Yes.
Make themselves more of a presence in.
That's what I was going to make a point of.
Yes,
So
I do think. I think
I
a
would
lot of our young people don't know about these organizations.
I would suggest to you that one of the it always tends to play a smaller role in the discussions and arguments that our Congress goes through is the funding for programs like AmeriCorps and Peace Corps and those civic service groups. Like those are always some of the first to be on the cutting block when it comes to what the president or what someone else wants to cut, depending upon who's in office. Normally Republicans versus Democrats, and so there's so I would like to go back to the idea of a point in time where you are required to serve your country and do something or to do something to serve your country, non-military. Is that something then if you can't look at the military, is that
Well,
something that
let me give you an example. So, Eritrea, right? Eritrea broke off from Ethiopia a few decades back, and they have forced conscription. And it's not just military, it's also government jobs. Every single person that comes out, every single child has to somehow support the government. So I had a friend from Eritrea that had to do conscription, and she explained that it was a horrible experience for her because she, not only her entire family, and they could not choose where they were going to go or what they were going to do. They were forced into either military, and oftentimes they were treated horribly, especially the women. So I'm not suggesting that America would be like that, but the problem is we're setting ourselves up where America could be like that. So that's why I'm against mandatory. Now, I agree with Liz in that we should be promoting these programs better, and not to the kids, but to their parents, so that their parents, or even programs leading up to programs like AmeriCorps or towards supporting the government. But no, I'm mandatory. No.
Yeah, I think for me, like there was a time where I wanted to.
Hold on a second for me, Liz. Groovin. We haven't heard much from you. Want to give you a moment to pop into the conversation.
We're low on time,
I
so
think that one of Neo's concerns of not having any checkpoints to go from AmeriCorps being into forced conscription. I'm sure something like that we can monitor so that doesn't happen, but that still doesn't change some of the other issues behind mandatory.
And I think mandatory. I mean, it's the idea of semantics here. Maybe you would get more people on board if you use another word other than mandatory. But like for me,
I think mandatory is important to use because all you slackers who don't do nothing but live off the America need to think about your lives and how much you could benefit other people if you take a moment and you provide.
So what these groups should do is take advantage of the current situation of most of the universities in the country not knowing what they're going to be doing for the next couple semesters. And if companies or groups like Peace Corps and AmeriCorps promoted themselves now, you have the built-in skip year. Take advantage of it.
Exactly. I like that. I mean, and if you really look at AmeriCorps, Peace Corps, they used to be cool. There was a time when they promoted themselves and it was a cool thing to do. Now, who even would want to try to do that? I mean, I think that there may have been a time I might have been interested. I'm sorry, Liz?
Yeah, who's even heard of it? Like, I guarantee you the average 17, 18-year-old really is not very knowledgeable about what AmeriCorps and Peace Corps, what they do, what they are, how long they've been around, and how it could benefit them.
Some people thought they didn't exist anymore.
So I think...
Why don't they go to the high schools and recruit the same way the military does?
Exactly.
So there's two things I'd like to throw out here. One is a comment from Monk Mode, who said, how about eliminating a full-time standing army? And to go along with that, we talked about it for a second earlier. How many of you guys have had family members who served before? So I know I have. And if you've had a family member who served, what was that experience for them? Was it something they valued? Was it something they didn't value?
Didn't value.
Like, why? Like, what came out of it that they didn't appreciate?
It varies. I think my dad was really old when I was born. My dad was 54 when I was born. So he and all of his brothers served in World War II. And I think the part that was devaluing for them is that they came back from the war to a country that still did not accept them. So it was like, so what was all of that for? What did I put my life on the line for when I still don't have basic rights in this country? Now, my cousins, fast forward to 1990, 2000 and beyond, if you will. I have two cousins that one served in Iraq, one served in Afghanistan. These are career military gentlemen. They've been in the military since they were 18 years old. One retired, I'm going to say, 2 years ago, and the other, he is still back and forth, in Afghanistan, but they have nothing but positive things to say. So I think it just depends on the climate of the country,
Yep.
the government that the country is
Yep.
under, whether or not you think it has been beneficial to you.
Yep. I agree.
All right.
So if you force it and they want to go at a time when it's not beneficial, then we need to close this up. Jan, you want to do a last words or something?
Oh, all righty. I did want to reference The Wire. I don't know if any of you watched that show. There was a character who was killed who had said he didn't know why people, when they left I believe it was the east side of Baltimore, went over to the west side, they thought they were going somewhere. They thought they were in the. I would suggest that is one of the many ways that people who would never have a chance to see the world or understand different cultures get an opportunity to do that.
But they can do it by choice.
Whether it be through military or by a domestic means or through Peace Corps. But I still think that the consideration of a mandatory time of service for this country would be something that we could seriously consider.
It goes back to Liz's original point, though, but it's going to be the poor and the disenfranchised that are going to be in these programs, and those are the ones that are going to make up the programs.
I mean, with that argument, in a government that we don't take action in changing and that we haven't proactively changed, absolutely. But it's still our responsibility as people of this country to make that change anyway in the current government we have. So that answer, although applicable, does not fully satisfy the need of the country, in my opinion.
Or you find a way to make it so that you can't get out of mandatory. Mandatory is mandatory.
Mandatory is mandatory. Thank you, Groovin. So,
I don't think he's saying he agrees with it. He was just coming up with a solution for you.
Solution. I'm the moderator.
I think it should be promoted, more so than what it is now. But mandatory means this is cutting into the plans that I have for myself in my life. And I might not want to do any of those things. I might have a totally different vision of what I should be doing and the track I should be on to be successful. And in a free society, we are the leaders of the free world. I think I have that right to decide what I want to do with my life.
Fair enough. And I hope you feel the same way about taxes, because I want you to not pay your taxes, because I don't want them to impede on your freedoms either. And so I'd like you to live your life to its fullest. And when they come
I don't think I can pay taxes as long as the president isn't paying taxes.
I'll keep Remy.
That's right.
Remy, there's a spot for Remy at the house. There's a spot for Remy at the house while you spend your time. You can spend some time and sing with what's her name from the It's all good.
So, if it's mandatory and you know it's coming, then you can plan for it as part of your life too.
Bam! Groove in. I vote for Groove.
Because you know for 18 years that this is something that you're going to be doing.
Yeah, you can dread it for 18 years.
All right, let's
we do need to close it down, guys.
Where does it end?
Right.
At the end of your 1 year service. Well, one.
All right, who's going to get the last word? Come on.
All right. So, all right, Neo has the. I'm not giving up my last word. This is mine.
Clearly. All right. So good discussion, Jan.
So, thank you guys for your participation. Thank you guys for the comments.
Something that we should think about. I think it's a very good discussion topic. I think
it was a great discussion.
Consider. and maybe explore, actually.
Yep. All right.
Well, cool. I appreciate everybody's time. So let's move. We got the next segment, which is our game of the century, or at least of the evening. Neo, take it away.
All right. We got Shoutrageous. All right. So I'm going to try to explain this game for you. It's a little different than what we usually play, but it's a relatively simple game. I'll read off the question or topic, and the app here has selected 10 popular words related to that topic. And you guys just have to shout out as many things as you can think of related to that topic, and we'll see who gets the most of the 10 words. All right? I don't have my scorekeeper today. East taking a break from us today. So I'll just decide the winner in the end. All right.
I can do numbers. I can do numbers.
I'll decide. I get to decide the winner. All right. So we ready? All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the word and all that stuff, and then when the answers come up, I'm gonna close it down. Let's see. All right. So I'm gonna go with random. All right. And let's play. Oh, this.
Play ball.
All right. Team name is awesome.
Is I and you. All right. Start game. Ready. All right. Are you guys ready? So, start naming things that blow.
Things that blow.
Things that blow. All right.
Fan. The wind.
The wind, fan. What else?
Bubbles.
Air conditioner.
Air conditioner.
Heater.
Yes.
A blowfish.
What'd you say?
Your boo boo.
Blowfish.
That's not on here, no.
I said superhead. I said a prostitute.
Your other boo.
All right, time's up. Time's up. I got the wind, air conditioner, fan. All right, let me put it back up. Let me see. See if we get. Maybe you guys said things and I missed it. What we got? Car air vent, snowblower. All right. Waiting in the line at DMV. Yeah, that blows. All right.
Yeah.
So Ruben got all three of those. All right, good job, Ruben.
Oh, wow.
Ruben.
We're being generous.
All right.
We donate
So let's go to the next one. Different kinds of cameras. Different kinds of cameras.
Polaroid.
Home camera.
Kodak, Nikon.
Lycra. Canon.
Old school.
Pinhole camera.
Pinhole.
iPhone.
Pentax. What is that really expensive brand?
Security camera.
Security. Okay.
Pen camera. Spy camera.
All right. See, time's up. Time's up. All right. Let's see. Let's see what you guys got. See, I might have missed some. All I heard was security.
I don't like this.
Did I miss some of these?
I got digital.
Digital. Okay.
And
I don't like this game at all.
Yeah. I think it's
web camera, waterproof camera. All right.
We got Polaroid. Hang on. You said Polaroid. That was
You
the
just say
first
okay.
one.
All right. I'll give you Polaroid. All right. You ready?
All right.
Next round. Oh boy, of course. Close that down.
McDonald's.
All right.
I don't like McDonald's.
Search engines.
Search engines past and present.
Are you ready?
Okay. Dogpile. Lycos. Alta Vista. Yahoo.
Cheesin. Kermit.
I said
Mosaic.
Yahoo.
Netscape.
Bing.
Firefox. Bing. Yeah, that's good.
Safari.
Opera.
I got a lot of them.
Chrome, I guess.
I think. Okay, so I got Yahoo, Google, Bing, Netscape. I heard all those. All right, time is almost up.
Oh.
Did we get that?
Netscape.
Oh, you started reading. I thought time was up. I was going to stop
All right.
thinking of stuff.
So, did I get them?
Oh, Ask Jeeves. Oh.
Did I miss any of those?
Go.
I got DuckDuckGo.
I remember DuckDuckGo.
Ooh, Ask Jeeves. Should have thought of that.
Oh yeah, Ask Jeeves and Ask.com. All right, this will be the last one.
All right.
You ready?
All right. All right, bring it. Bring the pen.
Things that reek. Hold on, I'm gonna do a new topic. All right.
Socks.
How to say hello across the world. All right. Ready?
Hello, hi, shalom,
Ohio gozaimasu.
welcome, welcome,
Hey,
greetings, salutations,
let's see.
assalamu alaikum,
Walaikum assalam. Let's see.
All right, I got
Moshi
shalom
moshi.
and hola. And,
Bienvenidos. Bienvenidos.
got 6 seconds.
Buenos dias.
All right, time is up.
The finished word.
Did I miss anything? Did somebody say bonjour?
Yes, I said bonjour.
I thought you did.
Oh, I love namaste.
I said ciao.
You did? Okay.
I said ciao, aloha, and bonjour.
Okay. I'm going to call it a tie between Reuven and Liz E right now. And we're going to break the tie.
That works for me.
All right. We're going to break the tie. All right.
Were we playing a game?
We'll get to order. Oh, see, now it's messing up. All right.
Well, it's a tie. Okay.
Reverse mode.
What is this? I don't know what this is. All right. We're joining in the tie then.
The Russians have hacked you.
I don't know what's going on here. All right. All right. Next. All right. Here we go.
All right.
So read the clues. We're just going to go with a tie. I don't know what's happening with this game. It done gone off on me now. I done lost it. That was a good game, though.
High five, Liz.
That was fun, guys. Woo! All right, that was a lot of fun. All right, so this is the end of our show. Let me turn the music on. All right, so Jam, let's get some final shout outs, see who was on, tell us what happened.
All right, Kev, appreciate you. All the shout outs, Jeanette, of course. Our new, let's see, we got Monk Mode, welcome. Hope you enjoyed. Got Ty, thank you much, lady.
Rupka was on.
Guys got anybody else?
Rupka? I think that was everybody.
I think we're missing one. We gotta find him. They said one thing. Vaughn. Thank you, Vaughn.
Yeah, we love you guys' interaction. We love you guys talking to us. So we do appreciate that all the time.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our show. I'd like to thank you all for joining us. We had a really good time. Hope you gained a new perspective. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe at TLS Live Show or www.tlslive.show. And we'll see you Wednesday. We will do the entire show as jam sessions. Now, just to say, we agree the 4 officers need to be arrested immediately, but it is maybe time to get back to some peace, just to see if the message was heard. All right, let's just see if they got the message, and let's not get goaded into looting by those factions looking to cause anarchy and make it look like we're the bad actors. Just keep safe, everyone. Stay alive, and
everyone, be safe, everyone.
I'm giving the last word to Liz today.
Well, again, happy Sunday. It's been a tough week for all of us. So I just want everyone, hopefully, to have a peace and calm evening. Hopefully, you will join us on Wednesday and we will be in a better mood. We will be jovial and happy, and there will be less hate in this world. We love everybody that loves us. So be safe and see you on Wednesday.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Peace.
Woo. Be safe.